Hello, people of South Africa. Let us take a dive into the EFF tolerance in electoral result. Let me repeat it again. Let us delve deeper. Let us take a glimpse on the EFF tolerance towards electoral result. In assessing, evaluating, and examining this whole scenario, we found out that there is a conflict of interest, especially between the masses of the EFF as well as the masses of the MK. Remember quite well that MK is one of the political organization that took a stand, in expressing, venting their grounds of dispute pertaining the concoct or either the unfairness that has been taking place on the electoral processes and procedure. That there are like suspicions. It's not only suspicions and allegation, but it also there is conducive, tangible evidence of the fact that they assume, they believe, they purport this narrative of believing that the votes were rigged. They've got some tangible, conducive, tangible evidence, and then they try, to put, their dispute forth towards the IEC, which is the ones who are like hosting, who are counting all of these processes and procedures that are taking place pertaining the elections, the voting elections. The casting of votes. It is found out that things have gone far away from the rails. Therefore, the MK took a stand, to express their grounds of dispute, the unsatisfactory, the fairness, the uncontentment pertaining the election that has been taking place. But according to pragmatics, it is very crystal clear in a nutshell that EFF doesn't want to retaliate to this fraud that is trajected towards the IEC. It's a mind-boggling and it's very outrageous because we know that EFF is one of the people who are very vocal about things that are not in line with the masses, with the grounds of disputes that masses bring on the table. So it's a mind-boggling and it's very outrageous that EFF decided, to act civil, to be very diplomatic about this whole scenario, and say this is their response when the masses of the MK were lashing, lambasting, neglecting, scolding the EFF retaliation towards this particular dilemma. Is that they said they are happy with the result and they believe that the results were fair, credible, and free, only to find all these 17 political parties who are bringing this matter to the attention of the IEC, that they are not happy, they are not content, they are not satisfied with the result. But the EFF doesn't see any problem at this. And the other words that they use is that they were not affected by the negative connotation of these elections. Because they were not affected, they were not the victims of the rigged vote, therefore they are not going to retaliate. It is patently absurd and grossly unfair, to stand firm with audacity, with boldness, as CIC stated that they were not victims. They were not affected by this allegation or rumors of the vote riggings. They don't see any unfairness in this. They believe that the votes were credible, fair, and free. But other 17 political parties who synergized, who united, and tried to have a remedial action towards this situation, it seems like EFF, they just aloof themselves from this particular problem. This is the problem that affects all of us, whether we were not directly affected by the unfairness that were at display in this elections. But at some point, somewhere, somehow, if there are other 17 political parties who synergized with one belief that these elections were not fair, credible, and free, but the EFF aloof themselves. They were tolerating this whole scenario. We were fair. The elections were fair, credible, and we are happy about the outcomes. And here are the ramifications and repercussions of tolerating this thing of saying we were not affected by this rigging of the voting. We don't see that was possible. We don't think that's the case. They distance themselves from retaliating exactly to exact the very same force of retaliation as these other political parties has been doing. So this simply means, let me just make a typical example, hypothetical speaking. If your neighbor's daughter was victimized, if your neighbor's daughter was victimized, is a rape victim, maybe there is a thug who was hovering around the hood, around the corridors of the hood, and then decided to target the daughter of your neighbor and rape that daughter, just simply because your daughters inside your yard, inside your house, were not affected by that rapist, it doesn't mean that you should fold your arms and aloof yourself from that particular scenario just simply because you say you was not affected. You are not the victim of that particular dilemma. There is no benevolence there. Where is humanity? Just simply because you're not involved in a car accident, it simply doesn't mean that people who are driving bad on the road should not be rebuked and reprimanded. We understand that there is judiciary which is on our side in rectifying all of these issues. But as a political so-called revolutionist, to aloof yourself when everybody else is venting, lashing, scolding the electoral procedure of these particular results, that they were not fair, credible, and free, but you decided to aloof yourself. It's like, my neighbor, your daughter is raped. Our daughters in this house, my daughters in this house were not raped. Therefore, I'm not going to retaliate in this particular scenario. It's a mind-boggling. It's patently absurd and grossly unfair not to have remedial action or to retaliate in trying to resuscitate and eradicate, to be in combat of that situation, to prevent it from happening, rather than to say just simply because you are not directly affected by this, so then you're not going to synergize and correct things that you see that they are far away, they are off the rails. So that were the MK people were saying by lashing and lambasting on the EFF, why are you folding your arms while our daughters are being victims of rape? One or other day, and some of the days, maybe this very same criminal who actually raped my daughter maybe will come to you next time, because all of these situations and circumstances affect the whole society, the whole community. Whether your house was directly affected at some point, somewhere, somehow, the act of crime, because forging the vote, it's fraud, rigging the vote, it's fraud. It is not fair. It is a bad thing to happen. So for you as a political party who labeled themselves as revolutionists, to aloof themselves from this particular dilemma and say just simply because they are not directly affected by this, therefore they will aloof themselves, they will distance themselves, they won't retaliate. It is patently absurd and grossly unfair. So there is no sincerity in politics. They're just playing a diplomatic, civil politics by saying they are happy. But I know deep down that these people are hurt by this outcome of this result, that the MK maybe took an exorbitant number, from their voting. So that is why they decided to act civil, but it is patently absurd and grossly unfair. Thank you very much. Have a lovely one.